she passed quietly in her New York home. No scandal, no headlines, just silence. But the truth behind Loretta Swit's final days, and the life she led before them, tells a story most fans never heard. She was more than Hot Lips Houlihan. Behind the Emmy-winning smile was a woman who battled Hollywood's expectations, turned heartbreak into purpose, and spent her final years fighting for those who had no voice at all. This wasn't just the death of a TV legend. It was the end of an era, and the final chapter of a life filled with fame, loss, and one unforgettable goodbye. On the morning of May 30th, 2025, the world lost a woman who had quietly shaped television history. Loretta Swit, best known for her role as Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH*, was found lifeless in her Manhattan home by her housekeeper. She was 87. The details were almost eerie in their calmness. Just hours before her passing, Swit had spoken with her longtime publicist, laughing and sounding upbeat. Around 4 a.m., she even dropped outgoing mail with her doorman, something she often did during her late-night creative spells. There were no signs of pain, distress, or illness. One moment she was there, and the next she was gone. The official cause was listed as natural, but fans were blindsided. There was no warning, no final interview, no farewell tour. Just silence, broken only by waves of tributes that began pouring in from co-stars, animal advocacy groups, and fans across generations. Alan Alda called her a light that never dimmed, while others described her passing as the quiet fall of a giant. But even as the world mourned, questions lingered. What had Loretta been working on? What were her final thoughts? And how did a woman so full of passion simply disappear? But that wasn't the whole story. To understand her final moments, we have to go back, way back, to where it all began, long before the world knew her as Hot Lips. Loretta Swit was just a quiet girl growing up in Passaic, New Jersey, the daughter of Polish immigrants. She was raised in a working-class Catholic household where dreams were encouraged but rarely pursued. Her father was a salesman, her mother a homemaker, and Loretta? She was the creative one, always sketching, always watching, always dreaming. After high school, she did what she thought she was supposed to do. She enrolled in secretarial school, took a job at the United Nations, and followed the path of stability. But it never felt right. Something inside her kept whispering, "This isn't your life." So she made a choice most wouldn't dare. She quit. She left behind the comfort of a paycheck and dove headfirst into the unknown. She studied drama at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, scraping by on side jobs, performing in underground theaters, and chasing a spotlight that seemed forever just out of reach. For most, that would have been the end of the story. Another actress lost in the shuffle. But not Loretta. Her grit was unshakable. She once said, "Acting wasn't just what I did, it was who I was." And soon, that determination would lead her straight to a role that would define an era, and nearly destroy her in the process. Because when Hollywood came calling, it came with a price. When Loretta Swit landed the role of Major Margaret Houlihan on MASH* in 1972, it was supposed to be just another TV part. But almost overnight, she became a household name. The character, nicknamed Hot Lips, was a strict, no-nonsense army nurse, and a constant target of jokes, pranks, and locker room humor. At first, Swit played the part as written, loud, flirty, a punchline in fatigues, but something about it didn't sit right. She saw more in Margaret than the writers did, and she wasn't afraid to say so. Behind the scenes, she pushed back hard. She challenged directors. She rewrote dialogue. She begged producers to let her show the real woman behind the nickname. And it worked. Slowly, season by season, the character evolved. Hot Lips became Margaret, a decorated officer, a complex leader, a woman respected by men who once mocked her. It was one of television's first real feminist arcs, and Swit was the engine behind it. But the transformation came with a cost. While Margaret Houlihan was finally being taken seriously, Loretta Swit was still being seen as just Hot Lips. The name stuck like glue. In interviews, tabloids, fan mail. She couldn't escape it. And while the world loved the character she created, Swit was starting to wonder if she'd ever be seen as anything else. But what happened next nearly changed her career forever, until it was ripped away. In the early 80s, Loretta Swit was ready for something new. MASH * was still a ratings juggernaut, but after a decade in the same fatigues, she wanted out. She had transformed Margaret Houlihan into something unforgettable. Now she wanted to do the same for herself. That opportunity came with a single phone call. The producers of a gritty new police drama, Cagney and Lacey, wanted Loretta Swit to play the lead. A hard-edged, no-nonsense detective, tough, smart, and layered. It was exactly the kind of role she had been fighting for. She filmed the pilot. It was a hit. Viewers loved it. Critics praised her chemistry. This was the breakout she had waited for. But CBS had other plans. Swit was still under contract with MASH *, and the network refused to release her. The role was recast. The series went on to win Emmys. Without her, Swit stayed loyal to MASH *, finishing the final 2 seasons with quiet grace. But something in her had shifted. Behind the curtain, she had sacrificed more than just a role. She had turned down motherhood, avoided long-term commitments, and placed career above all else. "I didn't want to split my life," she once said. "I had to choose, and I chose the work." But life has a funny way of rewriting your script. And for Loretta, love was about to appear in the unlikeliest of scenes. It was a storyline written for television, but this time, it happened for real. In the final season of MASH *, Loretta Swit shared the screen with a handsome guest star, actor Dennis Houlihan. He played a visiting diplomat who briefly swept Major Houlihan off her feet. On screen, it was a one-episode romance. Off screen, it was the beginning of something much deeper. Shortly after filming, Swit and Houlihan began dating. By December 1983, just months after MASH * wrapped for good, the two were married. It was a hopeful new chapter for a woman who had spent years married to her work. Fans were thrilled. For once, it seemed Hot Lips had found her happily ever after. But real life is rarely scripted. As the years went by, the relationship quietly unraveled. There were no tabloid scandals, no public fallouts, just a slow fade. In 1995, the couple divorced. No children, no dramatic headlines, just two people who had quietly grown apart. Swit never remarried. In interviews, she remained vague but thoughtful. "I've had love," she said once, "just not the kind you write fairy tales about." She poured herself into her causes, her art, her animals. Romance, it seemed, had become a closed chapter. But that emptiness? She filled it with something else, something wild, loyal, and voiceless. When the applause faded and the cameras stopped rolling, Loretta Swit didn't chase more fame. She chased something purer, something most people ignored. Animals. For Loretta, they weren't just pets or causes. They were family. She went vegan in the early 80s, long before it was popular. She spoke out against fur when others stayed silent. And while most former stars were making red carpet comebacks, she was showing up at animal shelters and rescue centers, sleeves rolled up, ready to help. In 2016, she founded the Sweetheart Animal Alliance, a non-profit dedicated to protecting and rescuing abused animals around the world. She sold her original watercolor paintings, often of dogs, tigers, and wildlife, and gave 100% of the profits to animal welfare causes. She didn't just pose for photo ops. She funded rescue vans, advocated for spay-neuter laws, and adopted animals with trauma stories that mirrored her own. One close friend said, "Loretta didn't just save animals, they saved her right back." Some in Hollywood whispered that she had disappeared, but the truth was she had simply found a new stage, one where the applause came in the form of wagging tails and healed wounds. But not everyone understood, and behind all the compassion, there were quiet tensions and unspoken regrets. Loretta Swit may have seemed fulfilled, an Emmy winner, an activist, a woman who had reinvented herself. But even legends carry quiet burdens. As the years went on, friends noticed something. The invites slowed. The camera stopped calling. And while MASH * reruns played in millions of homes, the woman who had helped define them was increasingly out of sight. There were rumors that she resented being typecast, that she turned down interviews because she didn't want to talk about hot lips anymore, that she had offers, even film roles, and walked away. But perhaps the hardest part? Watching others move on. Her castmates passed one by one. Harry Morgan, David Ogden Stiers, Larry Linville. Even as the family she helped build faded, she remained, the last woman standing. In a rare interview, she said, "It's like losing pieces of yourself over and over again." There were whispers that she became reclusive, that her passion for animals masked a loneliness she never fully addressed. And some quietly wondered, did she ever regret it? Choosing the work over motherhood? The spotlight over stability? She never gave a clear answer. But she didn't need to. The silence said enough. And when that silence finally turned permanent, the world realized just how much it had taken her presence for granted. When news broke that Loretta Swit had passed away in her sleep, the response was immediate, but strangely quiet. There were no long TV specials, no viral tributes, just a soft ripple across the entertainment world, followed by a wave of emotion from those who truly knew what she meant. Alan Alda posted a simple message. "A dear friend, a brilliant actor, and a heart as big as any I've known. Loretta, you made the world better." Mike Farrell called her the moral compass of the cast. Animal rights groups hailed her as one of their most devoted allies. But perhaps the most striking thing? She left behind no children, no heirs, no big estate battle. Just a legacy, carefully chosen, deeply lived. Her funeral was small, private, held back in New Jersey, where it all began. No red carpet, no speeches, just a few old friends, a few rescued dogs nearby, and the quiet sound of a life that had run its course with grace. Some fans were shocked that her final goodbye wasn't bigger. But maybe that was the point. Loretta Swit never wanted to be the loudest in the room. She just wanted to be remembered for doing something real. And as the final credits rolled on her remarkable life, one truth echoed louder than applause. She didn't just play a role. She became one. For anyone who ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or unseen, Loretta Swit didn't chase fame. She outgrew it. She didn't beg for roles. She created her own legacy. And in the end, she taught us something rare in an industry built on noise. That quiet strength leaves the deepest mark. From the battlefield tents of MASH * to the front lines of animal rescue. Her life was a series of choices, bold, painful, powerful. She said no when others said yes. She spoke out when others stayed silent. And she loved fiercely, even if that love never came wrapped in a perfect Hollywood ending. Most of the world will remember her as Hot Lips. But for those who truly followed her journey, she was much more. An artist, an advocate, and a woman who turned a single TV role into a platform for compassion. So if her story moved you, share it. Not just the fame, not just the face on screen. Share the heart, the purpose, the quiet fire that never went out. Because sometimes the loudest impact comes from those who speak the softest. If Loretta Swit's story touched you, if you saw her as more than just hot lips, leave a comment below. What do you remember most about her? Her strength? Her compassion? Or the way she lit up a scene without saying a word? And if you want more stories like this, the ones Hollywood rarely tells, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're just getting started, and the next story might be one you never saw coming.